Okay, because we're uncensored here on TNT, we were able to use the B word without any fear of retribution here. And I don't mean that word, but I mean the B word being Burnham, the Burnham word. Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester. I can remember first seeing him during the lockdowns where he was, telling us that the North was being really done bad, especially with the lockdowns. Businesses were failing. He was getting himself into a right old lather about it. Seemed to be getting some good publicity out of it, but then it all went a little bit sour over the last few years. What will Burnham's legacy actually be, Nick? And, he's out. He's going out. The person that's coming in, let's assume it's you. What would you do differently or better than Burnham did?
So what we've learned from Andy Burnham is the job is only part-time because recently he's had spare time to write a book and get it published, and he spends half his time going on about Everton Football Club and points being deducted by the Premiership League. So we know the job's only part-time, which I'm happy about. It means I can have more holidays if I become mayor. What's his legacy? He hasn't got a legacy. He thought his legacy was going to be the clean air zone, about cleaning up the air in Greater Manchester and charging people to drive. But that's all been cancelled now because the people said, no, we're not having this, Mayor. So he lost his bottle and he's changed all that. He's now hoping his legacy will be the B network, all our new yellow buses driving around Greater Manchester. So he's reduced the fares and he's now taken control of the buses for the first time in 40 years. But what the people don't know is he has 3 years to increase passenger numbers by 30%. And if he doesn't, the project goes bankrupt. So we could end up with no buses in 3 years' time. That could be his legacy. But his real legacy is going to be how he used Greater Manchester Mayor to springboard himself back into Parliament and become Prime Minister. That will be his real legacy.
Well, tell me this then. So, is there a possibility? I'm not sure how the mayoral system works, obviously in Manchester, but is there a possibility that he could get elected again, or does he have to step aside, or is the chances of him getting re-elected literally the same as the like of George Galloway going for the position? Of course, he could, but if he does, then he'll have to resign as PM. So, is there a chance? Is there a snowball's chance in hell, as they say, of Andy Burnham going for this and getting re-elected again?
Yes, he's still the favourite by a long shot.
Good
So the
grief.
Tory vote has collapsed over years. The Tories are not challenging for the seat, hence why their candidate jumped ship. Reform won't win. It's Andy Burnham's seat to lose, basically. So if something happens between now and then, like George Galloway standing, a new story that damages his vote even further. He's not as popular as he was 3 years ago, but common sense tells me he'll probably win again. Which is a shame because he's already had 7 years. And believe me, nothing in Greater Manchester has got better. Absolutely nothing has got better. Crime's out of control. It's like the rest of the country. It's all going downhill. And we're going to give him another 3 years because he can change Manchester in 10 years. 7 years wasn't enough. How long do we give them?
Do you know what? That's I'm not saying this. I don't mean it to come across as in a negative way, but it's almost like the people of Manchester. I don't know if they realize this or not, but there's a psychological condition called Stockholm syndrome. That's where you can be kidnapped by someone and held captive, but actually start to develop an emotional bond with your abuser or your captor. And it's not just. I'm not knocking the people of Manchester. We have a lot of listeners from Manchester. I'm saying, on the whole, we saw this happening in Australia as well. We saw it happening in New Zealand after all the lockdowns that Australia had, for example. Their two worst areas were Victoria and Western Australia, and their so-called premiers at the time was Mark McGowan and also a loathsome toad of a man by the name of Dan Andrews. But when it came time for the polls to open again, after they'd abused their constituents, locked them down, put a lot of them out of business, bankrupted them and sacked them because they wouldn't take the jabs, those people were actually successful in further subsequent elections. So I don't know what you can do about that. I don't know if that's a mindset that can't be cracked, but I know you're doing your damnedest to do that. You have a website. I just want to direct people your way as well. It's Nick Buckley for number 4 mayor.co.uk. And you also have how would you say it, you've put up a manifesto. So just in the next 3 or 4 minutes, the little time that we have left, Nick, I'm undecided. You knock my door, you're doing some canvassing. I'm living in Greater Manchester, and I say, well, what sets you apart from Burnham? Why should I believe you? Sure, all you guys are all the same. You're only out for your best interest. Why should I vote for you? What's your answer to that?
My answer would be you're perfectly correct. Everyone is out for themselves. That's why I'm standing as independent, because I don't want to have a puppet master. I don't want to be voted in and then be told what to do by the people in Westminster because they're my bosses. Hence why I'm an independent. My 3 main policies are: fix the police. Our police are failing in Greater Manchester. You're more likely to be stabbed and murdered today than 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. You're more likely to have a police officer knock on your door and tell you off about hurty words online. I want police officers hammering criminals every single day, and I make no apology for that. I'll be fixing Greater Manchester Police. I'll be turning them back into a police force, not a pink and fluffy pink service. That's my first point. My second point is I love my car, and I want you to keep your car. That's why I say no to the clean air zone, to ULEZ, to no traffic neighbourhoods, to congestion charges, to pay per mile, to 15-minute cities. If I'm mayor, all those projects are scraps. I will never implement a project like that. I'll go one step further. I'm going to take the cameras down because I don't want the mayor after me flicking a switch and implementing a clean air zone. I'm even going to appoint a motoring czar who will highlight any projects coming down the line from the councils that are going to attack drivers. I want an early warning system to make sure we're not in this situation again. And my last policy will be I need to improve all the public services. How do I do that? Well, I do that by naming and shaming top civil servants who are incompetent, who waste our money, who provide poor services. Because I can't change these services, the mayor doesn't have power. But I can stand in front of the press and go, Joe Bloggs from such a council has just wasted £500,000 on this project that doesn't work, that you're paying for. And unless we give the people the information and the names of people, that's really important. We need to hold them accountable. I want to give top civil servants skin in the game. So my campaign really is about doing the foundational work, because I want to do the heavy lifting today and fix the problems we've got, so people who come after me can then create some wonderful projects and improve everyone's lives. But you can't do that when our foundations are crumbling.
Yeah, that's a very good summary there. So there's 3 main points. Police, sort the police force, turn them from a police farce in the police force. Number 2 is the motorist, because obviously everybody loves their cars, really. It's a way to be independent, way to get about, but motorists are being cracked over the head, left, right and centre. So scrap the clean air zones, take the cameras down, and then the public services, because another thing that we cover a lot on here, Nick, right across the UK and Ireland, is this business of council tax, or rates as they call it in Northern Ireland. People paying thousands, 3, 4 grand a year for services, and always about potholes. There's always the potholes. You might get your bins emptied if you're lucky every week or every 2 weeks, but a lot of people are scratching their heads. And then, of course, a lot of councils are going bust as well. Birmingham Council has been declared bankrupt. Leicester Council. So many councils are in dire straits financially, despite all this money that's been pumped into them, and despite the fact that there's no visible improvement in the infrastructures of the area. So 3 very key points there that you've touched on, that if they're not going to be vote winners for you, I don't know what is, because certainly the people that I have on here are very disgruntled with the police, state of policing, very disgruntled with the attack on their pockets if they're motorists, and very disgruntled with the way that their money's being spent by their local councils and services. So just to wrap it up, I want to direct people, there's a website, Democracy3, Democracy3, THREE.org. And on that, you can read up a little bit more about what's Nick's visions are going ahead. And of course, if possible, you can follow him if you use the platform on Twitter or X at Nick Buckley, MBE, and his website, Nick Buckley for mayor.co.uk. And it's 6 weeks out. I think it's been about 6 or 8 weeks since we last spoke. So we'll try and get you back on again before those elections actually happen in, say, 5 weeks' time, just to give you one last little push before the elections actually happen. But in the meantime, big thanks to you for taking time out of your morning this morning. Nick Buckley for mayor. And you never know, I could be talking to the next mayor of Manchester in about 6 weeks' time.
If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around. Tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement. So be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.